Welcome to Sharing the Middle, where recovering perfectionists, overachievers, and anyone in the middle of a struggle come together to learn to embrace the messy middles of life. I'm Lacey, your fellow middler and guide, whose claim to fame this week is being the mom who was able to sign up to just get plates for her kid's school party. Today, I'm joined by Leslie Jespersen, a mom creator and intuitive strategy mentor for aspiring women entrepreneurs who desire freedom and fulfillment, but don't know where to start and or are afraid to make the leap. I can totally feel that in my soul as I read it. She combines spiritual modalities and intuition with marketing and business strategy that wholly support and completely, they support wholly and completely. It's both. They become wildly successful while avoiding personal burnout and being present with their families. That's a big, tall order. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited for you to join me. I'll be honest, I stalked your social media for a little bit and I am a fan. I like to start off with asking people, what do you think of when I say the middle? I find people tend to have a visceral, this is the middle for me.
Yeah, the middle to me is actually the present. When I think of the middle, I think of the present because we have, as a society, we have such a hard time being present. We're either, thinking about the stupid thing we said 3 days ago in a conversation or something we did 10 years ago. Or we're constantly obsessing over the future that we forget to be present. Something that I talk about with my clients a lot and something we work on is being present because we are really not in control of our timeline. That's what I think of when I hear the middle is right now we're in the middle.
So we're always in the middle. I love when it gets unintentionally really deep. We're always in the middle. Everything's the middle. My husband pokes fun at me now because I'm like, well, that's the middle. And he's like, Lacey, go stop. Not everything needs to be a middle. So I'm going to tell him today, everything's the middle.
Here's the camera crew. Are we right now?
I will say he gets a high level of joy when he can do it back at me. And it's just dang it.
Oh, I bet.
I would love to dive into, because I'm actually really excited to hear your story of your kind of middle moment that you when I presented this.
I see my biggest middle moment was in that phase of my life where I was immediately post-divorce. So everything for me kind of happened at the same time in terms of my huge life moment, my rock bottom, all the things. I had lost my home in natural disaster and my husband left me. We dealt with trauma in very different ways. That's how I put it. But it was that period of time immediately after when I didn't know what I was doing for work. I had a college degree. I had a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old at home.
Oh my gosh.
Well, not at home. I didn't have a home. So I was living in an extra bedroom at my mom's house at that point. And then, I started waitressing, was able to get into my mom had a basement apartment of her house come available. So myself and my kids moved down there and it was a beautiful opportunity in hindsight for me to restart my life and figure out what I wanted to do. But at that point, I call it my middle because I wanted to just fast track everything. I just wanted to be in the house with the new love of my life, be able to support myself and not rely, I think I was 28, 29, having to go food shopping in my mom's pantry.
Yeah.
So my middle was really at that point where I decided, okay, I'm going to start my business, from this basement. I had a couple windows that I would use as natural lighting and stick Post-its. And I started going Facebook Live and really just ripping the Band-Aid off and decided that this was going to be my new life. But it was going to take a while to understand exactly what that looked like. So my middle was doing the new thing and not quite sure about really anything. All right, I'm going to pitch this very low price to my first ever client, that kind of energy of that awkward baby, learning to roll over and then sit up and then pull themselves up against furniture and then walking. That was really, I feel for me in my life so far, I'm only 37. God, I hope I don't go through a bunch more middles. But
Well, we've already established everything is the middle.
Right, exactly.
So. There are a couple of things that you touched on that I want to ask more about.
Yeah.
One, I love the symbolism of being in a basement in the middle. There's just something so visceral about that. You are in the middle of the earth. I don't know, like
Yeah.
you're just implanted in there. Did it feel that way? Did it feel like maybe this is my question. Did you feel stuck? Because it
Oh,
sounds to me,
absolutely.
so like we have this kind of before and after, right? So before, this is my life, da, 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 and then chaos, all of all of
Mhm.
the things at once. And so then you're kind of stuck physically almost in the ground there.
Yeah, absolutely. There was so much symbolism in that part of my life. Before Hurricane Sandy, I literally had the white picket fence, the two dogs, I had the life that I thought that was the goal, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody wants, right? You want to get married, you want to have babies, you want the two dogs, the white picket fence. Low-key, it was so hard. We were paycheck to paycheck and less than paycheck to paycheck. But I went from that to literally feeling like it was all washed away and starting over and feeling so stuck. The feelings of complete lack of control over anything in my life and just being held down. The basement apartment was really interesting because I live on an island, and so our basements are not really basements. They're just like 4 steps down. So it literally was like the middle. So I was a little bit above ground and a little bit under.
I can just see, my brain just pictures like that little like sliver of light at the top of being your like beacon of hope.
I soaked in that natural sunlight for sure.
Was there any kind of defining moment or something that made you say, this? I mean, obviously you probably didn't call it then, but like, this is my middle. I need to change. It seems like there was like a click almost, like that something had to give.
There was. So I have PTSD from just the whole Hurricane Sandy. That could be a whole nother episode of like what it did to me, of like,
I cannot
having to like, I can still, if I talk about it, I can still hear and feel what it's like to like walk in my kid's bedroom with the mold and the wet carpets and throw all of my kids' belongings away. Like, that is still very much with me. But I would say a very big turning point was the apartment that I was in. And I was there for almost 3 years, that basement apartment. The house had sold and I had to move again. And at that point, I felt like all I was doing was just picking up my shit and going to another place and never really feeling like home. And so at that point, I had like a major PTSD breakdown, in the middle of the floor, crying. My mom like, I don't know what's happening or how to help you kind of thing. That was okay, this next place that we're going, I don't want to be here. I'm going to be here because we have to, but I will do whatever it takes I want my kids to have their own room. They were getting older. They needed, there were certain things, and I talk about this on my podcast, actually. I wrote down on a journal page when I first started learning about manifestation, I described where I wanted to live and like what I wanted it to look like. And I was like, okay, I'm here, but this is where I'm going to be. And that was kind of my motivation to do what I had to do, whatever I had to do to get out of my living situation. Not saying that I wasn't grateful for it, that we weren't, my mom let us be homeless, but it was just, I never was able to ground myself anywhere that was mine.
What kind of, now this is, I don't necessarily know if this is the middle of this, but I'm so curious about, like, was there a moment that you're like, oh, I'm making it? Because, right, we talked about this kind of like feeling of stuck and not doing that. You make the mindset shift and you're going towards something. Was there any markers that you're like, oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening? Because honestly, this is purely selfish that I'm asking. Like right now, I'm in this huge life shift myself and I'm starting this business. I still have a hard time even saying business. So I'm just constantly looking for these little markers of like, this is right? Everyone's cool. This is right. Did you have any of those along the way?
I feel like I didn't until I was almost sort of past it.
Interesting, yeah.
And that's when I actually started a daily gratitude practice because I noticed that I was not being aware of when I was in it. And I do it all the time now. I'm like, I disgust myself how mushy I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally living my dream. Like, it's ridiculous. But I think that my moment is so like in on that journal page when I described what I would live in. So like I moved into what I call a lemon house, but I didn't care. It was a 4-bedroom piece of shit house, but I was paying the rent. It was only me. My kids had their own room. I was doing it. We were only there for like a year and a half, but this next house, it's actually where I'm at right now. I was standing upstairs in what's now my studio, and I was like, oh my God, I literally described these windows in my journal.
That's so
Like,
cool.
it wasn't until I was standing in front of those windows, really tall, almost floor to ceiling windows with natural light where I can hear the ocean when I'm going to sleep. And I was like, wow, this is it. And so to answer your question, very long-winded
No, I
way,
loved it. Yeah.
first, I did not. But what changed that is a daily gratitude practice. And that ties into being aware of the present moment and sitting
Yeah.
in that. I have a gratitude practice every single morning. It only takes 5 minutes. And that is what keeps me grounded. And I really think that's magnetizing to attract what we want.
I am so excited to tell you about Next Door Goddess handcrafted jewelry. This vibrant jewelry is inspired by the Mediterranean sunshine and coast to help you celebrate your beauty. Each element is sourced from small businesses, handcrafted in small batches, and only made while the creator is in their best mood, which, if you've ever seen or heard from Vicky, the creative director, you know it means that you will be receiving pieces that not only are beautiful, but make you feel amazing too. I personally just got the Tina in the Sun gold and sunstone hoop earrings and feel fabulous. These are probably the only earrings worth risking my 1-year-old daughter pulling on, which from me is the biggest compliment. Head to nextdoorgoddess.com and get 10% off your first purchase by signing up for the newsletter and free shipping with all domestic orders. Release your inner goddess today. When do you feel like your middle ended?
I feel like we just moved to new we moved to new things. I guess maybe that middle ended maybe. Gosh, I never even thought about that. I think that middle might have ended maybe 2 or 3 years ago, or I could say when I moved into this house and we are still renting. We are in the process of looking to buy, but I feel like it was like I could turn the page from that chapter of not feeling settled and not feeling like I had a place to call home, because while I know this where I'm at now is not permanent, I know that I manifested this. I know that I saw this, and I know that this is my home. Like, I would be okay if we were here for another 10 years. So I would say that's when the middle ended, even though it feels very concrete, like moving someplace is the end of my middle.
I will say it's very interesting that that's kind of come up a couple times for you, of very physical being, of
Yes.
being displaced, being in the basement, being in a new place that is helping you along, and then being in a more, not necessarily forever home, but, home.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I'm a very spiritual person, and it's definitely something that I think about a lot, in that the elements have a lot to do. Like, the one basement apartment always like flooded when it rains, and for a while I just felt like water haunted me everywhere I went.
Oh my gosh, I
And
bet.
now, ironically, I'm on one of the few streets that doesn't flood at all. Which is wild. Like, don't think I don't notice every time we get a hurricane and I'm like, oh, look, there's not even water on our steps. This is magical.
I love a takeaway. Let me give you a piece of advice. Looking back now, and I know we kind of talked about this a little bit. I have a guess of what you're going to say, but what would be if you were having a friend go through the same situation, or if you could talk to yourself while you're in that middle, what would be kind of a piece of advice or life lesson that you would want to impart?
Absolutely. Mindfulness in being present and a gratitude practice and understanding it's not so much the destination, but the journey. As cliche and that sounds good. What would our lives be if we were just constantly running to the next thing and not stopping to really feel gratitude in our bodies and in our souls and in our nervous systems? There's a difference between saying, yeah, I'm, sitting at the Thanksgiving table and I'm grateful for, no, it's really feeling that and, letting the universe know, thank you, more please.
I'm always curious when people talk about a gratitude practice, just because I feel like it's something I should be doing, but I don't necessarily know how to do it consistently. Do you have like a piece of advice for that? Because I like to think I'm a pretty grateful person, and I'm a positive person, especially going through the challenges I'm going through now. I'm really trying to see, like, yesterday I had a great day. I showered by myself for the first time in 2 weeks. That's a big deal for me. But then I just move on. How do I, do you have any advice for kind of keeping that grounded and going?
Yes, definitely being consistent and definitely writing it down. All of my clients, my coaching clients that I work with, have a gratitude journal, and we come up with some kind of practice that works with them and their lifestyle. But for me, they have like gratitude journals on Amazon that you can get, but it's 3 things I'm grateful for today. And, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it, but it's really being intentional with devoting the time to do it. And I think writing it down forces you to have that time. It is helpful to, stop and say, all right, for the next minute, I'm grateful for this. But I think actually developing a routine and a practice, just how you would wash your face and brush your teeth, write down. Just when we're studying in school, writing things down helps us really like lock it into our minds. And by developing that kind of routine, we are able to be more present and notice. And, as I'm sitting here like, wow, I am so grateful for that.
Well, thanks for sharing. How can people find you? What is going on? What can you plug for our listeners?
I am most active in my Instagram stories. It's Leslie_Jespersen. My last name is all E's. I always say, because people always want to put S-O-N at the end, it's all E's. It's the Scandinavian spelling. Connect with me on Instagram in my stories.
I actually have a brand new offer coming that's called BYOB, which stands for Be Your Own Bestie. I'm really going back to my self-love coach roots here. So BYOB, Be Your Own Bestie, is a 30-day online experience that helps you love yourself more. It's daily challenges, support, live calls, and we help you evaluate your boundaries, learn to cultivate self-love and compassion for yourself, uncover your dreams and your goals, and create lasting change. And then after this 30 days, it's a challenge style. After the 30 days, you'll be empowered to live a life of purpose with confidence in who you are and the changes you've made. And it's only $1 a day. So I'm really, really pumped for this. You can sign up at byobestie.com, byobestie.com. And I hope to see you there.
Thank you so much for joining me. I had never really thought about the middle as the concept to become such a physical place. And so now that's going to be on my mind all day as I am here in my bed, about how those kind of 2 things work together. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Absolutely.